Imagine this. A pitch-black February night in the year 1855. Snow lies heavy and untouched across the landscape of Devon, a world wrapped in silence. Not a sound stirs. The villages sleep. The barns are still. Even the wind seems to hold its breath. But with the first light of morning, everything changes. Outside their doors, the villagers find something that does not belong there, something no one can explain. A single trail, sharply defined, cuts through the freshly fallen snow. No animal, no human could have walked this path. Because the prints form a perfect line, unbroken, dead straight, stretching over rooftops, through walls, across fences and rivers, even through narrow pipes just 10 centimeters wide, as if a being had moved through space and matter itself, without ever truly touching the ground. And the shape of the tracks? Cloven, like hooves, like the mark of a creature not from this world. On the night of February 8th to 9th, 1855, a strange phenomenon appeared across East and South Devon, near the estuary of the River Exe in England. By morning, it was the village cobbler, Mr. Samuel Barrett, who first noticed something odd. When he opened his shop early, he saw strange hoof-like prints in the snow, leading straight from the cobblestone street to his front door. They looked unusual, elongated, narrow, and clearly split down the middle, unlike any animal track he had ever seen. But the most astonishing part? The footprints appeared to climb up the wall of his shop, as if the creature had moved vertically, defying all logic. Confused and unsettled, Barrett called for his neighbor, John Baxter, who arrived shortly after. "What in the world is this?" Barrett whispered, eyes fixed on the mysterious tracks. Baxter, a down-to-earth farmer with a practical mind, crouched down to take a closer look. He ran his hand gently across the indentations in the snow. They were unusually deep for such small prints. "This isn't from any animal I know," he said calmly. "It feels off. Something's not right here, Sam." He shook his head slowly. "If you ask me, this isn't natural. It's unsettling, almost demonic. Devil's work." From that moment on, the tracks would be known as the Devil's Footprints, for many believed they had been left by the devil himself, their shape resembling a cloven hoof. The news of the mysterious footprints spread like wildfire. Curious villagers left their homes, some skeptical, others deeply unsettled. But the more eyes followed the strange markings, the clearer it became. They didn't stop at Barrett's shop. The tracks stretched for miles, cutting straight through the village. They wound across open fields, passed by churchyards, and even appeared on rooftops. What disturbed people most was the way the tracks moved, in a perfectly straight line, as if left by a bipedal creature. No animal they knew moved like that. And when it became clear that these footprints stretched for nearly 100 miles, even the skeptics lost their smiles. With each passing day, the mystery grew deeper and more unsettling. The strange prints began to appear in dozens of other villages across Devon, always with the same eerie precision, the same unnatural straightness, as if some invisible entity was moving toward a purpose no one could name. Wherever the tracks appeared, they left behind only confusion and fear. In Dawlish, a small fishing village, the footprints were found on the damp sand of the coast. They led all the way to the shoreline, and then continued, out into the open sea, as if the creature had no fear of water. Or perhaps, it simply had no need for solid ground. Further north, near Exeter, a group of men followed the trail to an old barn. The prints led inside, but ended abruptly at a solid brick wall. No exit, no window, no opening, nothing. As if the creature had simply vanished. The clergymen of the region were among the first to sound the alarm. In somber sermons, they spoke of ominous signs, of a visitor from hell. Father Ignatius, the parish priest of St. Saviour's Church, stood before his congregation on Sunday, his voice trembling, and called them to prayer, for protection against the wanderer in the shadows who is not of this world. His words burned themselves into the minds of the faithful, and they fueled the growing fear. For the rumors now spreading grew darker by the day. The devil himself had come to Devon, to leave his mark behind. Even the world of science could not remain untouched. Dr. Edward Forbes, a respected naturalist from London, traveled to Devon himself. With ruler, notebook, and a growing sense of doubt, he measured the prints, comparing them to animal paws, bird talons, even the tracks of exotic creatures he had studied in far-off lands. But nothing matched. The depth, the symmetry, the movement. It all defied nature. The mysterious tracks, averaging 10 centimeters in length and 7.6 in width, stretched across the landscape in regular intervals of 20 to 41 centimeters. Reluctantly, but truthfully, Forbes finally admitted, "I know nothing like this. These prints, they follow no pattern I've ever seen." And so the mystery grew, rather than faded. Reports came in from more than 30 locations across Devon, and even parts of Dorset. The area where the tracks were found stretched from Exmouth to Topsham, crossing the Exe estuary, all the way to the coastal towns of Dawlish and Teignmouth. The estimated range? Anywhere from 60 to 160 kilometers. Some believed it was an elaborate hoax. Others blamed a rare weather phenomenon. But the more people tried to unravel the mystery, the further it slipped from their grasp. Because one thing remained undeniable. No man, no animal, no known force of nature could explain what had walked through Devon that night. The fireplace crackled, glasses clinked, thick smoke lingered beneath the low ceiling of the small tavern in Woodbury. The mood was heavy. For days, there had been talk of nothing but the strange tracks haunting the land. Then, in a rare moment of silence, a hunched figure rose from the dark corner near the hearth. Eliza Montague. Some knew her as an herbalist, others avoided her, whispering of old things best left forgotten. But when she spoke, the room fell silent. "I saw him," she said, barely more than a breath, yet each word cut through the stillness. "And believe me, whatever leaves those tracks is no animal, and it is no man." A quiet murmur stirred among the crowd, but Eliza was unmoved. Her eyes, clouded with age, glinted in the firelight. "It was many winters ago. I was just a girl, walking back from the clearing to the village. The forest was silent, so silent that my own breath was all I could hear. And then I saw him, a figure between the trees, tall, thin. The cloak he wore moved as if caught by the wind, but the woods were still. And then, I saw his eyes." She closed her lids for a moment, as if she needed to gather herself. "Red, not like fire, more like something glowing beneath the skin. A burning ember. But the most disturbing thing was what I saw beneath his cloak. No feet, hooves, split hooves, black and gleaming, and they left no trace upon the forest floor. No one laughed. No one dared interrupt her. I ran. I screamed. And when I looked back, he was gone, as if the forest had swallowed him whole. A silence settled over the room like a veil. No coughing, no clinking of glasses. Only the crackle of the fire remained. Eliza's tale did not leave the tavern as just another rumor. It became a warning, one that spread through Devon like frost creeping through the earth. People began to hang crosses above their doorways, to hide pouches of salt beneath their pillows, and whenever fresh tracks appeared in the snow, only one name was whispered: "He's back." Fear had long since turned to anger. Rumors spread like mold through the minds of the villagers. And one night, as the sky hung heavy over Exminster, a group of men made a decision. They would put an end to the terror. Armed with torches, pitchforks, and old hunting rifles, they set out. It wasn't bravery that led them, but the desperate need to give the unknown a face, and to hunt it down. The forest beyond the village was black as pitch. The trees stood close, old and gnarled, as if they held knowledge long forgotten by humankind. The trail in the snow was clear, 2 hoof-like prints, even and side by side, leading into the darkness. The deeper they went, the colder the air became. The men began whispering, without even realizing it. Even their torches seemed to burn quieter, as if the forest would not tolerate the light. And then came the feeling. Not fear, not threat, but a silent understanding. We are not alone. The prince led them over moss-covered roots, beneath low-hanging branches, through a fog that had appeared from nowhere. And just as the first of them was about to turn back, the forest opened. A clearing, round, silent, unnaturally empty. At its center, an ancient stone circle, as if fallen out of time. The stones were weathered, partially covered in snow, yet their presence was overwhelming, as if the earth itself were holding its breath. The footprints led directly to the center, and stopped. No further, no return, no sign of struggle or escape, only silence. The snow inside the circle was untouched. No branches, no animals, no wind had disturbed it. Only those two prints. And then, nothing. One of the men whispered, "He didn't leave. He vanished." No one spoke on the way back, and the next morning, none of them told what they had seen, as if they had stepped into something never meant for human eyes. Thomas Harrington, the blacksmith with arms like iron tongs and a heart said to be forged from steel, was the only one who dared take a step closer to the stones. While the other men hesitated at the edge of the clearing, he slowly walked between the monoliths. Each step crunched in the snow, but beneath his boots he felt something strange. Warmth, not from the torch, not from his body, but from the ground itself, as if, deep beneath the earth, an ancient heart was still burning. He remembered the stories his grandfather used to tell. Tales of places where the world grew thin, porous, where the boundaries between the seen and the unspeakable began to crumble. And this place felt exactly like that. Then, without warning, the ground began to tremble. Not like an earthquake, something deeper, something alive, stirring. A sound, low, guttural, primordial, rolled across the clearing like a curse spoken in stone. The men recoiled, shouts caught in their throats, torches flickering, a tool falling with a metallic clatter to the ground. And then, it stepped forward. From the darkness between two stones, a figure took shape, not walking, but simply there, tall, shadow-like, as if woven from smoke and fear. Its eyes were not eyes, but two burning points, glowing, soulless, ancient, and where feet should have been, there were hooves, shining, cloven, black as pitch. The men stood frozen as the creature slowly raised a hand, or what resembled a hand, long, bony, almost translucent. It pointed at them, and then came the voice, not a sound, but a crackling, like burning wood in an abandoned hearth. "Leave. This place is not yours." It wasn't a request, it was a sentence. Panic erupted. The men stumbled backward, throwing down their torches, dropping pitchforks, and courage. They ran without looking back, through the forest, toward the village, as if the very breath of hell was chasing them. The next morning, they returned, hesitantly. There was no trace of the stone circle, the prints in the snow, gone, as if swept away by something unseen, as if no one had ever stood there at all. But Harrington knew better, and ever since that night, his eyes often drifted toward the forest, watchful, knowing, and never again at peace. From that night on, nothing was ever the same. The forests of Devon, once places of hunting, play, and childhood memories, became shadowlands, silent, unfeeling stretches of earth where no one dared move after nightfall. The stone circle, once lying in the mist like a forgotten artifact, became the center of a silent superstition. No one spoke its name, and no one ever dared to step into it again. What had been seen that night, or believed to have been seen, etched itself deep into the collective memory of the region. Distrust grew between neighbors. Silence replaced courage, and over everything hung a quiet sense of knowing. Something had been here, something that was never meant to be. Scientists came, with measuring tapes, hypotheses, and raised eyebrows. Scholars dug through ancient chronicles, searching for similar events in other times. Some pointed to rare weather phenomena, to chemical reactions in snow, even to wandering animals with deformed limbs. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could explain how a single being could move across hundreds of miles without ever pausing, without ever making a mistake. No signs of coming, no signs of going, only signs of being. And so what remained was not a solved mystery, but a dark chapter, passed on like a flame. A story that, in Devon, was not merely told, but carried forward, like a curse. The footprints were never seen again, but the silence remained. And some, those who live near the edge of the woods, say that sometimes, late at night, when the mist crawls low across the ground, they hear a faint, steady tapping, like hooves, slow, unstoppable. The legend of the devil's footprints lives on, not because it was ever explained, but precisely because it wasn't. And in the darker corners of the world, where logic ends and the unspeakable begins, stories like this remind us that some doors are better left closed, and that some footsteps are never taken alone. The footprints may have long since faded, but their shadow still lingers over Devon, and perhaps over all of us. The story of that winter, when an unseen being walked through villages, fields, and forests, cannot simply be shaken off. It creeps beneath the skin, settles into the mind, not because of what happened, but because no one understands why. Was it the devil, as some whispered? A natural phenomenon that defies all logic? A macabre hoax, too perfect to be coincidence? We don't know, and perhaps we're not meant to. Because that's where its power lies, in the lingering doubt, the incomplete image, in the idea that there are places in this world where the rules are different, where the invisible becomes visible, if only for a moment, where, for the briefest of instants, the veil lifts, and we catch a glimpse of something never meant for human eyes. Direct evidence of the phenomenon is scarce. It wasn't until 1950, after a call was published in the Transactions of the Devonshire Association, that a collection of old papers surfaced. They belonged to Henry Thomas Ellicombe, a clergyman from the 1850s. Among them were letters, sketches of the footprints, and even a never-published draft intended for the Illustrated London News. Over time, countless theories were proposed to explain the strange phenomenon, from hopping mice and kangaroos to badgers or a balloon dragging ropes across the ground. But stories like this don't endure because they give us answers. They endure because they ask the questions no one dares to think. And sometimes when the wind moves through the branches and the night is especially still, a feeling remains. As if something is there, not far, not gone, something that never truly left.